The President. Good morning. We resume the third day of debate on the motion of thanks. Secretary for Development. Mr. President, I sincerely thank members for the invaluable views expressed yesterday. Let me respond to a number of points expressed on the supply of land. And on land supply, we strive to enhance quantity, speed, efficiency, and quality. Immediately after the delivery of the policy address in mid-October, we published for the first time a forecast of developable land to be available in the next 10 years. That is 3,280 hectares of land will be made available, and it is a commitment to the public and an internal reminder for ourselves. It is an important initiative. We have confidence in the supply of land, and we will strive to implement the initiative and explain the initiative to the members of the public. But one crucial link is members of this council. We need your support, and we need to take a multi-pronged approach, and we need to do away with unnecessary bickering on land development options. But as I understand, there are always different views on land and housing supply, and in taking forward some development projects, some shop operators and some residents in the area may have objections. We need to bear in mind views of the public and try our best to meet their demands. We also need to improve case management and provide support and information to the affected. And through implementing a clear objective and making a continuous effort, the government has indicated that we have taken back the leading role in land supply. But it doesn't mean that we can just work on our own. The government cannot be the only supplier of land, because private developers also play a role in this regard, and more importantly, the government will put forward a framework for land development, and for major land development projects, the government will also take a lead. Earlier, the Chief Executive in Council granted in principle approval to 3 applications under the Land Sharing Pilot Scheme. This is a classic example of the role private developers play in complement with the government's effort in setting the framework and leading major land supply projects. At the moment, there are still criticisms about public-private partnership schemes. They call it collusion between the business sector and the government. I cannot agree. After all, we consider only the interests of the people and whether the development projects will bring benefits to the people, and whether we are working in accordance with all the rules and regulations, and also whether it is value for money if we offer land premium concessions, and whether the developers have paid for the land premiums concerned. What we set out to do is to have an efficient market and a capable government and a level playing field. The 3,280 hectares will come from the government-led land development projects. The Financial Secretary mentioned the 2 major projects, that is the Northern Metropolis and Kaui Chau artificial islands in the Central Waters. These are mega projects, and 10 years down the road, they will continue to play a significant role in land supply. Another new source of land supply is Green Belt Review, as announced in the latest policy address. We have shortlisted about 255 hectares of land with a potential supply of about 70,000 housing units. We'll strive to rezone the first batch of land by 2024. Next year, we will complete the review on other Greenbelt sites. I want to emphasize that by optimizing the use of Greenbelt sites, it doesn't mean that we will take forward housing projects only. For example, for the 1,000 hectares of Greenbelt sites in southern Lantau, they will mostly be used for supporting ecotourism and providing greenery. And the Development Bureau will continue to take forward the initiatives in this regard. Yesterday, some members talked about Tseung Kwan O Area 137, and it will be developed into a community for housing purpose to house 135,000 additional population. But members also voice out concerns about the reclamation projects near the residential neighborhoods and the impact on Tseung Kwan O residents. I want to emphasize that public consultation will be launched by the end of the year after the study has been completed, and we note members' concern. Enhancing efficiency and speed, that means streamlining the development process. On legislation, having consulted the panel on development and stakeholders, we will table an amendment bill to the Council before the end of this year, whilst after consulting the Department of Justice. Well, members asked the progress yesterday, and I urge members to pass the bill as quickly as possible. As for streamlining administrative procedures, this is what we've been doing, and we have recently commenced a new round of review to study a number of key topics. Our target is to put forward specific proposals on these key topics progressively starting the middle of the year. At the same time, enhancing efficiency and speed must be done on the premise of ensuring safety at construction sites, and we will continue to promote modular integrated construction, that is MIC, so that it becomes an industry that Hong Kong can be proud of, on top of being an efficient construction method. And starting next year, we will also be setting up smart construction facilities at construction sites. And we'll also be driving forward the full implementation of BIM in vetting building plans. We're going to lay down objectives and timetable for the industry to provide training to their practitioners. We'll also leverage the post-secondary institutions' curriculum design to take this initiative forward. We also need to take forward urban redevelopment projects, and we propose to relax the threshold for compulsory sale, and will also raise the borrowing limit to enhance URA's financial capability. We understand that there is support from the Council, and recently we issued a paper detailing the arrangements for relaxing the threshold for compulsory sale of private buildings. We look forward to a fruitful discussion with members. We will work with institutions, and we will also be consulting members of the public. Mr. President, sufficient land supply for meeting social needs is a challenge for both the government and the community. The new term of government has been sparing no effort in taking forward various initiatives and driving changes. In the future, we will strive to implement the initiatives to enhance the impetus for growth and address people's livelihood. Mr. President, I so submit, and I urge members to support the policy address.
Sure.
Secretary for Housing. Thank you, Mr. President. And I would like to thank members for your support in the housing policies in the policy address, and I've heard many invaluable views. The majority of the public supports our policy address and is very encouraging to us. We are going to ensure that we will be able to implement all our policies. Yesterday, the Deputy Financial Secretary already addressed housing supply, and now I'm going to explain more about the light public housing and also respond to some of the issues raised by members, such as private-public partnership and the waiting time for public housing and subdivided units issues. First of all, on light public housing, we are going to work with all sectors to identify public or private land that could be used in the short time for light public housing. We are also working hard in land survey to ascertain whether the sites are suitable for development. And once we have identified the sites, we believe we'll be able to announce this to the public in the first quarter of next year. In terms of design, we're going to choose simple designs to provide simple and suitable units for members of the public. Some people thought that light public housing or units constructed by modular integrated construction will just be using containers. We are not going to do that. This is a misunderstanding. We will adopt the MIC approach, and that could be used in different projects such as schools, residences, and hospitals. The light public housing rent will be linked with the traditional public housing rent. It will be around 90% of the newly constructed public housing rates, and we estimate that it will be around $570 to $2,650. Many are concerned with the operation arrangement of light public housing. We are going to invite tenders and to work with us and to invite experienced organizations to manage and to maintain the LPH. These organizations do not necessarily have to be NPOs. They can be experienced management companies. We will also provide community services for those living in LPH and also to support them in finance management and job opportunities. We hope that the first batch of 1,000 units could be completed by 2024 and 25. In order to reach this target, the government will apply to the LegCo for funding in the first quarter of 2023 to fully push forward with our development of LPH. I hope that members will support the funding proposal. I'll also like to touch on private-public partnership. In the policy address, the government announced a private developer participation in subsidized housing development. Riding on private developer support, we are going to increase development. In the next fiscal year, we are going to tender off 3 sites in phases to allow those interested developers to work in subsidized housing development. We encourage developers to sell off these units, and we will set up a framework by the first quarter of 2023. We have seen many successes in previous private participation in housing development, but there have been some issues with quality. That is because the developer can still take in guaranteed premium regardless of whether the units could be sold off. And that is actually not an incentive for the private developers to ensure quality. Based on these experiences, the government will set up a mechanism to encourage private developer participation and at the same time ensuring quality in the units. Under this framework, we're not going to buy back units not sold out by the developer, and we will announce this in detail later on. Currently, the public housing waiting time only looks at the traditional waiting time. With the supply of light public housing, we can now try to reduce the waiting time. The government will introduce a new index of composite waiting time for subsidized rental housing, and that can better reflect the effectiveness of the government in improving the living conditions through providing different types of subsidized rental housing. We heard some views that they believe the government is just playing with numbers with the introduction of the composite waiting time for subsidized rental housing. I totally disagree. The waiting time will basically be the same, and actually that will calculate the average waiting time of general applicants for receiving the first offer of PRH units or LPH units. The public will be able to see clearly the waiting time and the situation. We can see from the policy address that the government continues to explore sites to develop housing supply, and we also take other new approaches such as a wide adoption of MIC, design and build, and we aim to try to shorten the time for housing supply. We hope we'll be able to speed up the process of public housing supply and to provide suitable living environment for those in need. Yesterday, I heard members talk about the redevelopment. We continue to work on redevelopment. In the past 10 years, 13 projects were completed, and we now have 10 still in progress. In the future, we are still going to continue our work. Everyone is concerned with the subdivided units issues. The government is very concerned with those living in these inappropriate living conditions. We have considered this in the long-term housing strategy. As I said, we are going to highly increase the number of public housing supply in the upcoming years, and we are going to work in full steam to build 30,000 LPH units, and at the same time continue to work on increasing the number of transitioning housing units to 20,000. We hope these measures will actually change the housing ecology. Within 10 years, we will not see these SDUs with poor living conditions. And we would step up the implementation of tenancy control on subdivided units. We will continue to have a team to look into the tenancy control and also set up task force to understand whether there are any breaches in SDUs. The Water Supplies Department and RVD will also check on the SDUs. We have already set up a designated team to step up the enforcement. In the next few years, to implement all the important measures announced in the policy address will be challenging. We need to try to relieve the pressure on housing. I will work with the Housing Authority and other departments to work in a concerted effort to implement all these measures. I hope members will all support the motion of thanks. I so submit.
Secretary for Transport and Logistics. President, I have to thank members' feedback for transport and logistics. The government has an infrastructure-first approach and building capacity principle to develop capacity and to also release development potential and enhance connectivity with the Greater Bay Area cities and to fine-tune our transport network. The policy address announced 3 major trunk roads that would be built and 3 strategic railways. This will help develop the Northern Metropolis railway and road infrastructure. So I will focus on these 6 projects. 3 major trunk roads are the Shatin Link, Zhongguan-O, and Northern Trunk Road. The 3 strategic rails are Hong Kong-Shenzhen Central Line and Lam-Tin Line. So you can see these 6 proposals' purpose is to alleviate the congestion that we have right now and also to facilitate integration with the Greater Bay Area and to support development in new development areas. At the end of this year, there will be public consultation, so I hope that you can provide more valuable input. At the same time, the government also proposes different road and rail projects. Just this week, the Zhongguan-O Lam-Tin Tunnel and Zhongguan-O Link will commence operations on 10th of December this year at the same time, so they will serve as an extra option, an extra road option. The government is also promoting different trunk road projects, Route 11, Qingyi Langtao connection, Yunlong expansion, and also the Chunmun works to meet the traffic demand. On the railway side, we have 5 rail projects, including Phase 1 of Gudong Dongchong Xiuhuwan Station, Chunmun South, and also Hongshui-Qiu Station. These will start work next year and will commence operation from 2027 onwards. Hong Kong-Shenzhen West Rail for Phase 1 study works will be completed this year. The second stage of design and study will commence next quarter. Now, in light of the link bridge projects, we are conducting feasibility studies, and we feel that in the first quarter of next year we will be able to complete the studies and indicate the future direction. We will continue to liaise with district population and have more communication. In order to facilitate travel, the government will continue its implementation of intelligent travel to meet people's needs. For example, we have new digital car parking meters. We will also provide real-time data analysis of traffic conditions. We will also look at the different types of digital license registration. Transport Department will further digitize different applications, for example, online application of driver's licenses and so on. At the same time, the government is also conducting a transport strategy study. We hope that by 2025, and if possible, we would like to conclude it earlier. We would like to provide a safe, intelligent, environmental friendly transport strategy guideline. In the 14th five-year plan, Hong Kong's status has been confirmed, and we have a responsibility of undertaking the development of 2 centers. So we will implement a series of measures and policies to enhance Hong Kong's role as a logistics hub, as a finance hub, as a transport hub, in order to coordinate with the nation's development. On the air freight side, we have suffered we have underwent a lot of challenges, but Hong Kong Airport is still one of the best airports in the world. In September, when we implemented the 0+3 quarantine measure, we have seen passenger numbers increase. As our quarantine measures relax, as our immigration measures relax, our transport sector will recover. Now, we support the airport authority in building the 3rd runway and other infrastructure projects, and we also want to develop Hong Kong Airport as a airport city. The 3rd runway will start accepting air routes, so airport authority is undertaking other projects, and we expect that the 3rd runway works will be completed by 2024, and it will enhance our competitiveness. At the same time, Airport Authority is trying to integrate Hong Kong with the Greater Bay Area cities. That includes taking the Haitian terminal and convert it into a Haitian exchange terminal, so that will facilitate mainland and Macau residents when they arrive in Hong Kong via the Guangzhou Hong Kong Macau bridge. They can have a more convenient process. In order to promote Hong Kong's role as a transport hub, we will continue to attract more maritime freight forwarders to come to Hong Kong. So maritime freight forwarders will be provided with tax incentives. We want to develop an intelligent harbor. We want to develop a maritime community. We will also start implementing digital licenses, digital registration, and other support for measures. So having a green harbor will help long-haul maritime vessels. We will enhance our competitiveness in this sector, and next year we will also have a maritime staff training scheme where more maritime professionals can receive training in Hong Kong and help promote the sector. Now, in order to enhance the logistics industry, we work hand in hand with the industry, where we set up a logistics strategy. We want to consolidate Hong Kong's advantages, and we set short-term, medium-term, long-term strategies so that the sector can develop in a sustainable manner. So we have the air freight, maritime freight, and land cargo transport logistics, and all these combined together will enhance our logistics standing. Now, the Hong Kong SAR government communicates with its mainland counterparts. We continuously seek to improve overland logistics and transport. So we would like our truck drivers to be able to collect cargo directly on the mainland and enhance their efficiency. Regarding logistics and manpower, we will review the manpower situation. We will listen to their opinions and feedback. The government will also have an open attitude and work with the industry to see how we can enhance manpower training and manpower retention. President, transport and logistics touch upon our everyday lives, so the government has a series of measures to make Hong Kong a more convenient, intelligent city and to enhance the public sense of happiness. The government also works with different sectors, and according to the 14th Five-Year Plan, we will consolidate Hong Kong's position as a air cargo logistics hub, and we will integrate into the nation's development. That concludes my speech, and I urge members to support the motion of thanks. Thank you.
Secretary for Labour and Welfare. Mr. President, I thank members for their input on welfare and labour initiatives. I also thank members for the reminders. They've sincerely asked the government to do their level best. I will strive to do my best in this regard. The current time government strives to build a caring and inclusive society, and we also adopt the targeted poverty alleviation approach by directing resources to those most in need. The Strive and Rise program, led by the Chief Secretary for Administration, targets 2,800 junior secondary students, particularly those living in SDUs. The program was launched in the end of October and will evaluate the program and chart the way forward. The government will also restructure the Commission on Poverty to study and identify any other target group for implementing the policy direction of targeted policy alleviation. On protecting children, the government will take forward at full steam the setting up of a mandatory reporting mechanism for child abuse cases. We also consulted the sectors on implementation details, and on Monday we consulted the panel on welfare of the council. We plan to introduce a bill into LegCo in the first half of next year. The Social Welfare Department is actively preparing for the training for practitioners to facilitate their early identification and reporting of child abuse cases. The government has also completed the first phase review of residential and childcare and related services. We will improve service quality and planning in a holistic manner, and will also strengthen law enforcing inspections, including engaging independent persons to conduct unannounced inspections. We'll also strengthen childcare services, including more childcare service places, re-engineering of 19 mutual help childcare centers to provide after-school care program for pre-primary children in phases, and review the implementation and effectiveness of the Neighborhood Support Childcare Project. We will also continue to improve elderly services with due emphasis on both quality and quantity, and adhere to the policy objective of promoting aging in place as the core and institution care as the backup. We'll regularize the pilot scheme on community care service voucher for the elderly in the third quarter of next year, and the number of beneficiaries will increase to 12,000 in 3 years' time. We are also going to provide 16 new neighborhood elderly centers in the next 5 years, and the services will be expanded to cover areas such as retirement planning and promotion of Gerard technology. In the third quarter of next year, we will also expand the Hospital Authority's Integrated Discharge Support Program for elderly patients by increasing the number of beneficiaries by 1/3 to 45,000 per annum. The government is making the greatest effort to increase the number of subsidized care places. Our target is to provide an additional 6,200 subsidized residential care places and 900 subsidized daycare service places by the end of 2027, of which 2,600 and 300 places respectively will commence service next year. Now, on addressing manpower shortage in residential care homes for the elderly and the disabled, on the premise that local workers' priority for employment will be safeguarded, the government will launch a special scheme next year to allow importation of care workers for R6Es and R6Ds on an appropriate scale, relax the ratio of care workers to be imported, and streamline vetting procedures. The government will also subsidize an additional 1,700 or more students to enroll in the nurse training programs. They will be required to work in the social welfare sector for at least 3 years upon graduation. The government will also take a review of the skill and qualification requirements of R6E and R6D staff so as to create a career progression path for attracting and retaining talents. We will strengthen support for carers of elderly persons and the disabled, and we will regularize the pilot scheme on living allowance for carers in October next year and increase the monthly allowance from $2,400 to $3,000. A one-stop information gateway for carers and support hotline will also be set up. More respite service places will be provided. Mr. President, on Labour, the Labour and Welfare Bureau will introduce a number of new initiatives to enhance labour protection and promote employment. The government will invite the Minimum Wage Commission to study how to enhance the review mechanism of the statutory minimum wage rate, including the review cycle, how to improve efficiency, and balancing a host of factors such as the minimum wage level and sustained economic development, and make proposals to the government on the above. The Labour Department has further enhanced the application procedures for protection of wages against Insolvency Fund for earlier disbursement of ex gratia payment to affected employees. Measures include free legal advice for applicants, and this new measure has been implemented since this month, and it is estimated that the application procedures of PWIF can be shortened by up to 12 weeks. The government launched the pilot Greater Bay Area Youth Employment Scheme in 2021 and received positive response. The Labour Department will regularize the scheme in the first half of next year to encourage enterprises to employ Hong Kong University graduates and deploy them to work in Greater Bay Area mainland cities. The Labour Department will regularize the Racial Diversity Employment Program to provide one-stop employment service for ethnic minorities. Starting the first half of next year, we will recruit more ethnic minority persons to increase their job opportunities. The government has invited the Employees Retraining Board to consider raising the daily rate of retraining allowance and providing allowances for half-day courses, which are expected to be implemented by the first quarter of next year so as to encourage more people to be retrained and rejoin the workforce. To enhance the deterrent effects of the penalties in OSH legislation and further protect workers, the Labour Department has introduced a bill into LegCo to increase the overall maximum fines. I thank members for scrutinising the bill, and I urge the Council to pass the bill as quickly as possible. The Labour Department is also drafting a bill so that the scope of notification mechanism will be expanded to cover construction works with shorter durations and engaging fewer workers but carrying relatively high potential risks such as truss-out scaffolding, so as to conduct timely inspections. Guidelines will be set up to require employers to take preventive measures under hot weather to protect employees from heat stroke at work. The Labour Department also launched the pilot rehabilitation program for employees injured at work to provide expedient rehabilitation treatment and case management services for injured employees of the industry. We expect by 2023 the pilot program will help at least 50% of the participants recover within 5 months after commencement of treatment. Apart from the new initiatives mentioned above, the government will continue to actively prepare for the implementation of the abolition of offsetting arrangements under the MPF system. The Labour Department will also review the continuous contract requirement and soon initiate or consult the Labour Advisory Board. In the second session, the Financial Secretary already spoke on the relevant measures to troll for talents, so I'm not going to repeat them here. They are the highlight of this year's policy address, and they are the locomotive for the post-epidemic economic recovery and the long-term development of Hong Kong. The Labour and Welfare Bureau, in charge of manpower policies, will spare no effort in taking forward these measures. There are 26 indicators in the policy address relating to welfare, labour and manpower. Through multi-prongs, we strive to provide safeguards in the workplace as well as in the community so as to join hands with the public to build a caring and inclusive society. I so submit, Mr. President. I urge members to support the motion.
Secretary for Environment and Ecology. Mr. President, I would like to warmly extend my gratitude to members for expressing their views. In striving towards carbon neutrality, the Hong Kong government will try to reduce carbon emissions by 50% before 2035 in order to achieve the goal of carbon neutrality before 2050. Through conserving energy, promoting green transport, promoting waste reduction in the community, we will try to strive towards carbon neutrality. The Environment Ecology Bureau will set up a new climate change and zero carbon office and will reorganize the Council for Sustainable Development to become the new Council for Carbon Neutrality and Sustainable Development. In striving towards carbon neutrality, cost efficiency is very important. Therefore, we are going to pick the best approaches. We are going to work in promoting green transport, including to conduct trials of new generation electric taxis as well as hydrogen fuel cell electric double-deckers and heavy vehicles next year. We will also provide in the next coming 3 years an additional 7,000 parking spaces with electric vehicle chargers in government premises. We will also introduce about 700 electric buses and 3,000 electric taxis to formulate the long-term strategies for the application of hydrogen energy in road transport. We will also announce a roadmap for the promotion of electric public transport and commercial vehicles. In waste to energy, we are going to strive to engage the entire community in waste reduction and waste separation for recycling. We are going to launch a host of new initiatives. We will introduce a bill to regulate disposable plastic, tableware, and other plastic products. And in October, we've already consulted the panel on the environment to consult members' views. We aim to introduce a bill into the LegCo early next year to regulate these plastic wares so that we'll be able to monitor this in phases starting from the fourth quarter. We're also going to request property management and also owners corporation to do more in terms of waste recycling to ensure that there will be enough recycling boxes and that the collection can be properly handled. In order not to be overly dependent on landfill, the government will press ahead with the construction of a modern waste-to-energy incinerator near Shekuzhou. That is iPark 1, and we're planning the development of the second one in Zhangzhou, which is iPark 2. We will work closely together to identify suitable sites in the Northern Metropolis to ensure that we'll be able to properly plan out the surroundings. We are also going to work with the sector and contractors to see how we can enhance the measures implemented in IPARC 2. Starting from end of October, the government has already started pilot scheme on phased collection with smart bins in public rental housing estates to encourage domestic food waste recycling. We will extend these trials to 100 blocks of public housing estates in 2023 to 2024. We are going to enhance promotion and raise awareness to encourage members of the public to participate actively in food waste recycling. In terms of promoting sustainable development of agriculture and fisheries, we are going to work together with the sector to set out the development blueprint. We are hoping to share the contents of the blueprint to the LegCo in 2023. We will roll out our measures in phases to enhance the quality and the productivity of our local fisheries. In the first quarter of 2023, 4 new fish culture zones will be rented out to fish farmers to lower their startup costs. And we will provide steel trusses or other deep types of sea cages in phases. We estimate that within 5 years we'll be able to increase our production and we're also going to introduce new technology to modernize and ensure that there will be sustainable pond fish culture. We will also set up protection area and also to include aquaculture and recreational fishing while conserving the marine resources. The Development Bureau and the EB will look into adding in catering factors to the Aberdeen fish market. As for agriculture, the first phase of construction will be completed in the fourth quarter of 2023 in Gudong South. The second phase of preparatory works has begun. There will be new agricultural methods. We want to nurture agro-technology and knowledge of modern farm management, and we will also set up public education facilities and farmers market in phase 2 of the agricultural park. We hope to ensure active farming through suitable measures. And we hope to preserve quality farmland through designation of agricultural priority areas. This study will be completed by 2023 to 2024. In order to work with urbanization, we would also look into hydroponic farms in new development areas. We are going to help support the sector to set up multi-story buildings for high-tech hydroponic farms in new development areas and introduce urban farming elements. The consultancy report will be completed at the end of next year. We will continue to work with the agriculture and fishery sector to look for more effective measures to support sustainable development in the sector. Mr. President, I so submit and call upon members to and support this motion. The third debate session ends.
Members who wish to speak, please press the